All right, so how would we actually produce the graphs that I just showed you? Okay, I'm glad that you're into this because I am too. Let's go back into Excel. All right, so here are my two classes, AM and PM. I've calculated the mean, median. Actually, we can have it calculate the standard deviation for us. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go equals ST DEV, and there's actually a bunch of different standard deviation calculations we can do. But we're going to do standard deviation .s. That's the sample standard deviation because this is a sample. Okay. Open parentheses. It's just like the average, and select all those. Close parentheses. This is my standard deviation. It's 4.7 or 4.8. Drag over. Again, this is the same thing, cool trick that I was telling you earlier. So I could do equals stdev.s, open parentheses, select all the numbers, close parentheses, and I get that number. But I'm lazy. I'm not lazy. I'm clever. So I'm going to this little lower right-hand box here. If you hover over it and your cursor becomes a little cross, click on that, hold and drag. That's copying and pasting not the number, but the formula. And it does a calculation here. So if you double click, it'll show what it's doing, right? It's calculating the standard deviation of these. If I double click on this, it'll show it's calculating the standard deviation of the ones a column over. Now I'm going to just do a little thing for me just to clean things up. I'm going to hit the decrease decimal button here to decrease my decimal so I can round to the nearest tenth just because it looks cleaner. Okay, this is what my data look like, and so I only want to graph the mean, and then I'm going to add standard deviations later. This is not going to make it onto the graph at all. So there's a couple options. For some of you, it might be easier to just make a new summary table. It might be easier to just make a summary table where, where you have your means here. Oh no, I copied and pasted, and it's saying it can't calculate. Why can't why is it? This is not a number. Whoops. Because there's no. It's trying to calculate the average of things that are above here. This is an intentional mistake I made. Actually, what I can do is I can say this cell equals this cell equals, and then click on this one, and it'll just report whatever this is, and that'll report whatever that is. And I can do the same over here with the standard deviation. This is all the information that I actually need for my graph. Equals D15. And I could do equals E15. Or I could same thing, I could just drag over. And the reference point will also move over by 1. This is the information that I want. So you can either click this and then hold down Control or Command to select these two. Or you could just select this, like this. This is maybe the easier way, so we'll do it this way. We'll select these and then choose Insert. Don't do recommended charts. One of my biggest pieces of advice to you, or words of wisdom, is that Excel is a great tool. Google Sheets is an okay tool. Excel is a great tool, but it is not smart. Excel is not smart. You are smart. Okay? Excel is stupid. You are smart. Okay? So don't listen to it. You're going to follow you're going to do what I'm going to tell you to do, and you're going to use your brain to make a graph that makes sense. So instead of doing recommended charts, I'm going to go right to a bar graph column. They call them columns. And I'm going to just pick the first option. Now, because I selected the AM PM up here along with the numbers, it actually knows to label these here, which is really nice. So if I were to change, if instead of AM, I were to write, I don't know, hummus, you'll see down here, it'll say hummus because it's mapped to this. That's a really useful tool here. And now I'm going to show you how to play around with some aesthetic things. I don't want a title here, right? The title is in the caption. First thing I'm noticing is these horizontal lines, which are ugly. So I'm just going to click on them and then hit delete and delete them. Notice that my x-axis, sorry, my y-axis doesn't even have a line, which is annoying. So I'm going to double click on this. Depending on what version of Excel you have, you might get different things. So it's chart design up here and format axis axis options. So if you see here, this is like number options. If I want it to go from 0 to 100, I can do that. And now it goes from 0 to 100. That's my scale, right? That's the graph part. If I go into the paint can area, that's my formatting stuff. So it's saying for the axis, no fill, that's fine. Axis line, I want a solid line, and I want that line to be black. Okay, so that's nice. Now I've got a solid y-axis line. And I'm noticing, oh, this x-axis line is gray, and that annoys me. So I'm going to go in here, select my line to be a solid line, and that's going to be black too. Okay. So far, so good. This is looking pretty good. I don't have labeled axes though, so I'm going to go back to chart design, add chart element, and here's all the things that we might want to add here. I want to add axes titles. I want to add a horizontal title, and I want to add a vertical title. So I can just type in here. This is say test score, and then this is class. Okay, so far so good. Nothing wrong with that. So if I wanted to change like the color of these, again, I could just double click on these and play around in the paint can area. I can make solid fill, a little bit of a lighter blue, give it a black border. That I think that's kind of nicer looking. Okay, I want it to be light because I want to be able to see my error bars. This is a nice graph. And then if you wanted to add a caption, all you'd have to do would be insert a text box. Insert a text box here. I can just insert a text box here and write figure 1, blah, title, description, right? And just kind of like throw it in there. Okay, I can format this also so it looks nicer, but I'm not going to do that right now. And then finally, I'm going to show you how to do the error bars. The error bars are the tricky part, super tricky, because I want my error bars for this column to be plus or minus 4.8, and I want this column to show plus or minus 18.2. And that is not an intuitive thing to do. So we're going to click on the graph again so we get the chart design options. And then I see in add chart element, I have the option of adding error bars. Now, very tempting will be this, standard deviation. Don't do it. Don't do it. It doesn't know what standard deviation is. All it knows is you're graphing 71.5 and 71.5. Excel is stupid. You are smart. It'll just guess. So we actually have to do more error bars options. Okay, now we're in the error bars area. And it's saying, what would you like your error amount to be? So right now it says fixed value 10. So that means that actually for both of these bars, it's just plus or minus 10, which is not all we want. We want this one to be plus or minus 4.8 and this one to be plus or minus 18.2. So I'm going to write custom. I'm going to click custom, and I'm going to specify the value. And if you ask positive error value, that's asking how much should the bars go above the mean. And so I will delete what it wrote. And I'm going to actually click and drag to select both of these. And it knows which one's going to go to which because it actually is lined up with each of them. AM is 4.8 and PM is 4.8. So the negative error value is how much should the bar go below the bar? How much should the error bar go below this bar? For both these bars. So I'm again select both of them and hit OK. And what do you know? We have a beautiful, perfectly formatted graph. It is just excellent. So what I would say here is, so I wanted to show you something. These are all formulas, right? So this mean is calculating this. This standard deviation is calculating all from this original data, right? And this, because I wrote equals D13 instead of just 71.5, this number also maps to this. So if I change this 77 to 1,000, that will change the mean, right? It'll increase the mean. It'll increase the standard deviation because now it is like a huge variation there. And the graph will also reflect that. If I change to 1,000, I can really mess everything up, okay? Because now my mean is, maybe 1,000 was a bad one. Maybe we can make it 100. Because now my mean is much higher. I'll make it 200, right? These numbers change every time. Standard deviation is higher, and then it shows in the graph as well. But we know it to be 77. That's the correct one. And so that would be a really nice graph. Are there any questions about that? Was that helpful? I hope it was. I'm going to stop recording.